Three, two, one.
Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Happy Hour Show. I am your host, Ricky Valero. On today's episode, we are going to discuss the free agency frenzy that has been going on officially, unofficially now for a couple days, but officially now for less than 24 hours. Lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the moves. Fox will probably give you some of his fantasy perspective on some of the moves as well. I'm excited to kind of really dive into that. As always, joined by my partner here, Mr. Matthew Fox. How are you?
Probably doing better than Darren Waller, who found out he got traded on his wedding day.
That's pretty rough, isn't it? I saw that. I saw his wife made like a little remark about how McDaniels wasn't invited, which doesn't really surprise me.
Yeah,
but yeah. I mean, you go from catching passes. Well, I mean, you go from Jimmy G to actually, I like Jimmy G. So catching passes from Daniel Jones doesn't sound exactly enticing, but it is what it is. Good for him. I mean, I don't know what the Raiders are doing, and I really don't know how to feel about any of the Raiders' moves, but we'll dive in that in just a few moments. But obviously, I'll probably try to do this maybe from like the quarterback. We'll talk quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, some of the big ones. We're not going to talk about every single one, but we'll talk about some of the bigger news right off the rip.
We're going to be here for the next 4 hours.
Yeah, dissecting every single signing.
That reserve linebacker that signed with the Chiefs is coming up.
Kickers, don't worry. Kickers are people too, baby.
Kickers returners.
Exactly. That said, the key signings at the quarterback position, we'll talk about the big one in just a moment, but Derek Carr officially with the Saints. Jimmy G moves from the 49ers to the Raiders. Heineke heads down to Atlanta. Let's see here. Andy Dalton down to Carolina. He's probably going to be more like that tutor. Starting level-wise, Baker Mayfield down to Tampa to probably compete with Kyle Trask. Jacoby Brissett out there to Washington now is their best quarterback on the roster, and that's not saying much. Let's see. Jarrett Stidham over to Denver to be their star. I'm just kidding. Calm down. I'm just kidding.
When they signed Jacoby Brissett, I went and picked up Sam Howell in a couple of leagues.
Yeah, well, neither one of them are good, so it's good. But that said, what are your thoughts on the surface level of the initial reaction to some of these signings? Mainly talking starters here. The Carr, Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield of the bunch.
I like the landing spot for Carr. I thought that was good. I think the one you're forgetting is Aaron Rodgers finally emerged from the darkness and said he's playing for the Jets. So I think they haven't completed the trade, but that pretty well locks that up. I think with the Jets, he could have some fringe QB1 upside for me. Carr still a QB2. The Jimmy G one made me laugh. I don't think he's a bad option, but when they moved on from Derek Carr, it was allegedly to get a franchise quarterback who was a substantial upgrade. I'm going to be honest. I have Carr above Jimmy G in my dynasty rankings. He'll be above Jimmy G in my redraft rankings. I don't think that was a substantial upgrade. The Dalton signing makes total sense that the Panthers, who mortgaged 3 houses on the beach to move up to the number 1 pick, are going to be taking a quarterback. Some people think they're locked into Stroud. With them signing Dalton and giving him kind of that $8 million guaranteed, makes me wonder if Frank Reich wants to take a shot on Anthony Richardson, because they really haven't. We talked about a couple of their free agent moves. They traded DJ Moore to the Bears, which was great for Justin Fields. They have not made any big wide receiver moves. They got Hayden Hurst to tight end. They signed Miles Sanders to be a running back. I'm wondering if they're going to run some kind of a different kind of offense, because right now their best receiver is Terrace Marshall. So kind of an interesting one. Baker, I don't know what to make. I think he has QB2 potential because I still like Tampa Bay's pieces, although now they released Fournette and they moved to sign Chase Edmonds. So I still don't know what they're doing in their backfield. Is it Rachaad White, Chase Edmonds, and the corpse of Keyshawn Vaughn? that's going there, but they still have Evans and Godwin, which is great. I like Cade Otton as a young tight end. They still have Russell Gage, so they've got some pretty decent weapons. The fact that they've traded and or released offensive linemen, which was not a position of strength, gives me pause. I hope every draft pick that they have is now going to a lineman, because I don't know how Baker's going to be enjoying running for his life, but he had a fantastically strange year last year because he looked horrendous with Carolina, but I actually thought he looked good with the Rams. Can he parlay that a 1-year deal? It's not much of a commitment on either side, so I'll be curious to see how that plays out. But I don't know how you feel right now. To me, he's probably the second best quarterback in their division behind Carr. Because Atlanta just moved to get Heineke to pair with Ritter, so they're obviously riding out the string there, and we don't even know what Carolina's doing yet.
Yeah, the thing about it is for me, the Saints go to automatic favorites of that division. I love the signing of Jamal Williams. I think with the question mark behind Kamara and what that suspension looks like, it gives them, and I do think they'll complement each other pretty well down there too once he comes back. Michael Thomas, bit the bullets coming back for a year. Carr is not a terrible quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. And that division is in shambles. Carolina, like you said, mortgaged the future for a draft pick. And if possibly a project at that, if they do draft Richardson, I don't think they're going to be that competitive. The Falcons are making some good moves. I think the Falcons can be at least competitive for that division, like in the division, not in the NFL. I'm saying, guys, calm down. But I do think they could be at least competitive because you have that big question mark of the Bucs. The Bucs still have a lot of things that they need to sort out on what they're going to do. Does Godwin get traded? Does Evans get traded? Does how does that, figure out? And you're right. If you were, I mean, obviously, in my opinion, obviously Carr is the best sign. I like Jimmy G's signing for the purpose of football more than I do fantasy football because I like Jimmy G. I think Jimmy G is a very good quarterback. But at the same time, when you're looking at a division full of teams that have strong quarterbacks, I mean, is he probably fourth in the division? Maybe like him, depending on what Russell Wilson we get. Russell Wilson to me still can be
he's clearly
a formidable quarterback.
Exactly.
Huh?
He's clearly fourth, but I still don't know what the Raiders are doing either. Darren Waller made the joke he got traded for pocket lint, and they went and signed Jacoby Myers. I don't know what kind of offense they're trying to run.
I don't either. I don't know what they're doing, and I remember sitting on this show last year whenever McDaniels got hired and was touting the horn, thinking that maybe he deserved a second chance, and he's throwing.
I remember one of us thought that he was a horrendous coach and an even worse personnel manager, and should not be allowed to continue.
He shouldn't be allowed to do anything in life.
He definitely didn't get invited to Darren Waller's wedding, I guess. So.
Exactly. On the running back standpoint, there's some big-time moves. In my opinion, the market kind of really started off small, and now we've seen some pieces start the dominoes start to fall. Because of that, we had Miles Sanders sign with the Carolina Panthers. David Montgomery go from Chicago to Detroit. As we already mentioned, Jamal Williams going from Detroit to New Orleans. James Robinson goes from running back purgatory to sign with the New England Patriots. Samaje Perine goes to Denver, which I really like that signing. I think it's going to be underrated. He's a great pass blocker. I think he'll help there a lot more than anything else. Alexander Mattison staying in Minnesota, which I love. Wilson and Mostert both staying down in Miami. Justice Hill back. Travis Homer signing with Chicago. Who cares about some of these guys? Edmonds to Tampa Bay, like you mentioned a few moments ago. Rashad Penny to Philadelphia. And Miles. Everybody's re-signing back with the Dolphins. I didn't really understand all the running backs. Just like, hey, we're all just going to stay down in Miami. We're all going to run the ball.
Well, more importantly, I don't understand what Miami is doing, because Miami is a team that we have talked about for a couple of years need to do something at running back to solidify that offense. And I thought they managed to patch it together with Wilson and Mostert last year. When Mostert signed, I thought, oh, well, he's the one they must be bringing back. Now they re-signed both those guys. They re-signed Miles Gaskin and then Salvin Ahmad as well. What are they doing? This would have been a golden opportunity. Miami, Buffalo, a couple of teams that needed to go make a move at running back, and Miami just went, got the mod squad back together, just pulled all of them in. Buffalo has not managed to do anything at running back so far, except for let Singletary go in free agency. He could end up being back. I thought they were going to be a player. The Pirine signing was interesting to me. Makes me think that maybe they're higher on Javonte. I've had a hard time. I love Javonte Williams, but we haven't gotten a great read from Sean Payton that he loves Javonte Williams. But if Pirine ends up being kind of the running back they go and get, they let Edmonds go, they let Mike Boone go. He signed with the Texans. If Pirine's the kind of running back they're going to get, and they draft a younger player, Denver doesn't have a pick till the third round, then it makes me think they are still all in on Javonte, because early in the offseason, he was talking about, we're going to go get Miles Sanders, we're going to go get Josh Jacobs, we're going to make a run at Saquon Barkley. If they would have done that, that kind of tells you they're not in. Melvin Gordon's still floating out there, trying to get that ring again, another ring. Maybe he'll go to Buffalo.
The one thing that kind of, if you look at it, I really feel like Alexander Mattison could have been a perfect fit for Miami.
Well, so here's the thing. The Madison re-signing, coupled with the rumors they're trying to move Cook, there have been a lot of smoke that the Bills are trying to acquire Dalvin Cook. Yeah. And re-signing Madison, I thought for sure they were going to let Madison go, because why would you try to pay someone? But the other one, Ezekiel Elliott got cut free yesterday. That's another big name that now goes out. There are still
him as a complimentary back
still out there.
Yeah, I don't hate him as a complimentary back at all either.
Yeah, I still think Buffalo needs to do something. There are some the other teams. Antonio Gibson's still out there. Where is he gonna end up landing? J.D. McKissick got released, kind of a pass catcher. Fournette is still out there. Austin Eckler was given permission to now seek a trade. We know the Titans have looked at moving Derrick Henry. There are still some pieces out there that'll be curious to see where they go. But I've been surprised by two teams really surprised me. Miami going right back and signing all those guys back. And with Mostert and Wilson, it wasn't just like a one-year tender. They signed them to 2-year contracts. Maybe that is just going to be their permanent answer. That didn't make sense to me. It still doesn't, but c'est la vie. The other one is the Eagles. The only thing that I can think, they brought Scott back. I get the Rashad Penny average over 6 yards a carry the last 2 years when he's been on the field, but he has never finished a complete season. He has less than 2,000 yards career rushing in 5 years with Seattle. He's been constantly injured. The only thing I can think is that this might actually be Gainwell's year to shine, or that a couple of these teams are looking to hit it big in the draft. Is Buffalo not really doing anything because they want to use their first round pick on Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah, it's definitely with the Eagles playing the cards the way they are, it looks like they might go ahead and because they don't. In my opinion, they don't really need a top flight running back. They need somebody good there, but I do think that the way they're setting their contracts up, I do think that they're in the process of trying to get another rookie running back contract underneath their belt, because they're about to have to pay Jalen Hurts. Devontae Smith will be coming up on a contract in another year or two. Like, they're going to have to fluctuate some money. It's the market. The market has not been fair to, exactly great for running backs right now. It was surprising to see Montgomery get $11 million guaranteed from Detroit. That did kind of shock me a little bit. Montgomery's a good back. I just don't think that the money that they put out, why they wouldn't have just brought back Jamal Williams. I think Jamal Williams is a better back, in my opinion.
But also, age.
They're about 2 years apart. I mean, I get it. You know what I mean? It's not that big of a gap in my opinion. It's actually even less than that. But that's a lot of money to commit to David Montgomery, in my opinion. I don't know. It's not that I'm not a David Montgomery guy. I just think that there's better backs in my opinion that were out there that could have gotten you. Again, the Matson thing, I do agree with you. There's got to be something there for Matson that we don't know about, which we kind of know about per se, because I don't know. I would have preferred Matson over just about any of these running backs, especially at the price that you got him at. I mean, you're talking about James Robinson got $8 million, Matson got $7 million. I don't know. I don't know. It's very confusing to me. But that being said, we'll transition over to the wide receiver market, another market that started slow and it has continued to be slow with no real super duper big signings as of yet. But it is a position that teams are, starting to kind of hold back on a little bit and giving big contracts out to. Some of the big signings so far have been obviously the biggest so far was Alan Lazard heading to the Jets. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. We'll spend some more time on the big conversation of Aaron Rodgers here in a little bit. Jacoby Myers getting 3 years, as Fox mentioned it earlier, a random $21 million guaranteed from the Raiders. And then, of course, the other big signing as of right now was Juju Smith-Schuster going to the New England Patriots, getting $16 million guaranteed out of them on a 3-year deal. Where do you rank Lazard, Myers, Schuster as that 1, 2, 3 in a fantasy world?
So Juju I have the highest because he also faces the least amount of competition on his own team. Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams should be their biggest target person. He's a fine complementary player. They also have Hunter Renfrow and Mac Hollins that they used last year. So until we can get a feel for what they're doing offensively, it's hard to even understand. I think the same is somewhat true of Lazard. He's better of it as a role player, but the Jets have Garrett Wilson, who's a better receiver, and Elijah Moore, who is a better receiver. What is the role going to be there, per se? They also had used running backs in the past game. They have Carter and Hall. What are they doing with Corey Davis? I think he might end up being a cap casualty here. Alan Lazard is a wide receiver 3 for me, no matter what. I don't really even understand them having to go and get him or any of these other Packers. They didn't need receivers or tight ends. So it's been kind of curious. One of the receiver signings that just happened that I'm interested in, Paris Campbell went to the Giants. That's another team, they have an interesting collection now with him, Sterling Shepard, who can't stay on the field, and Isaiah Hodgins, along with Darren Waller. They are trying to upgrade that position. I wouldn't be surprised if they draft somebody, but that's kind of interesting. I still also wonder, what's going to happen with the Chiefs. We have Adam Thielen still out there. I doubt anyone's going all in on Kenny Golladay, who's out there. But there aren't a lot of huge names out there. I think some of these teams are going to have to draft, or are we going to see the Chiefs really going forward with Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, and MVS kind of as leading their receiving group, which gives me a whole other set of questions. I think the Patriots can't be done either because Juju, that's a great first piece. They're rumored to be looking at DeAndre Hopkins still. And I think a receiving core that has Hunter Henry, Juju Smith-Schuster, and DeAndre Hopkins becomes actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, absolutely agree, especially with the running back core they have there too. You know what I mean? Damian Harris is a
Harris is a free agent, and I think signing Robinson means they're not bringing him back. But Ramondre Stevenson is there.
I'm sorry, Ramondre Stevenson. Yeah, my bad. Stevenson is a pretty good back, and Robinson being that complimentary there, but that gives them some formidable weapons in the division that
you're going to need them.
Exactly, you're going to need to score points, especially now with all.
It's an arms race.
It is.
Well, and this is Buffalo. Their offseason makes little to no sense to me because going into it was pretty clear they needed to do something at receiver and running back, and they haven't done anything at either except for at least restructured with Diggs, because it looked like for a while that Stephon Diggs might be trying to get his way out of there. And people have talked about, is Buffalo's window already shut? It could be.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely interesting because I'm trying to, in my head, it's like I'm trying to put two and two together with all of these signings. You still have Odell Beckham out there, which he's definitely an interesting piece because I mean when he was on the football field and healthy for that Rams offense, he was a Super Bowl MVP before he got hurt. Period. Like he was going to be MVP of that game. And then got hurt. But, he's coming off several injuries. It'll be interesting to see what kind of money they give him. But Hopkins is that big piece that there's a lot of teams that I could see him being really good on. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of teams that could use him money-wise. You're looking at something big there. But Hopkins in New England would be interesting. Belichick loves Hopkins. He's talked about him plenty of times in the past, but Mac Jones, I think, is a pretty solid quarterback. I don't care. I mean, I think he gets a lot more hate than he probably deserves. I also don't feel like they really had an offense tailored to what he's equipped to doing either. The offense is weird last year. The team still won some football games, but I think Hopkins might be more of a closer to draft day trade as the free agency kind of, unfolds a little bit, depending on what the value of what they would get in return for him. It's crazy to me that I still don't get the Allen. I'm with you. I don't get the Allen Lazard signing. I don't. That's a lot of money for in my opinion, a wide receiver 2. Okay. You're paying him wide receiver 1 money. Well, I mean, I don't disagree. I'm talking about he could be like a solid opposite of somebody receiver in like real football. And he's like that's a lot. I'm sorry. It's just a lot of money. It's a lot of money. You're paying. I'm pulling up his money. I think it's like 20-some million guaranteed for a guy that he's okay. Like he's okay at best. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he's not great. I mean, you got Garrett Wilson there. Elijah Moore's out the door for sure. They're going to try to fetch him for something, I'm sure. But there's
I don't know why you would move Elijah Moore. They need to keep them. I think the one that gets probably released is Corey Davis, who's on the last year of a 3-year deal that didn't make a ton of sense and has like no guaranteed money. But more importantly, the power dynamics of if all these reports are true that Aaron Rodgers gave him a list of players they needed to go.
Well, he did say that he said that he didn't do that. Now, obviously, I think we meet somewhere in the middle and figure out what's true, what's not true. You know what I mean? They probably said, hey, what do you think if we sign Lazard? Do you think that'll be a little bit sexy for you to come play with us? I'm sure he was probably like, that would definitely be something. I don't know. I don't hate that he might have said, hey, here's a few guys that I would like you to try to sign. I don't mind that. It is what it is type of scenario. But at the end of the day, sure, go get Lazard, but don't pay Lazard at wide receiver 1 money along the way. I don't understand it. Like, who are you bidding against for Aaron Lazard, really? For that kind of money, you're bidding against yourself, probably. I'm sorry.
Supposedly they were bidding against Denver, which also didn't make sense to me.
That's another thing. That's another couple pieces. Sutton, Judy are still out there. What's going to happen with those guys? Are they going to be sticking around? One of them might be gone, but maybe they swung and missed on Lazard, so now they might keep both of them. Who knows what's going on? There's a lot of moving pieces that still need to be made. You know what I mean? There's still a lot going on. I'm still trying to figure out why the Carolina Panthers gave $13 million guaranteed to Hayden Hurst, but what do I know?
I mean, what do you know? Have you bent Frank Reich's ear? You're one of your favorite coaches. You know what? When you're looking at a receiving core that's like Shi Smith and Terrace Marshall, $13 million to get Hayden Hurst doesn't seem that bad. I mean, they might have to put Miles Sanders out at wide receiver. You don't know.
Also, Josh Oliver getting $21 million, $10 million guaranteed for Minnesota.
Not only do they not need a tight end, I don't know what they're doing.
I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on.
Some of these moves will probably make more sense once we get into the draft area, but Washington seems content to be rolling into a season with Sam Howell and Jacoby Brissett. I mean, Terry McLaurin has to be over there like
they have weapons.
Career
That's the bad thing. Like Washington has a good core of weapons.
Well, how is Dotson going to improve? How Terry McLaurin, they just gave him this big
McLaurin, Brian
contract.
Robinson.
He's going to take over for Allen Robinson as the wide receiver that we pray for years that he gets a quarterback. And Carson Wentz is still sitting out there. He's probably not anyone's franchise quarterback, but there are a number of teams that still could use some kind of quality backup. I'm curious where he's going to go. Doing Heineke alongside Ritter was an interesting choice. I still don't know what Atlanta is exactly doing, but then again, they have Kyle Pitts and traded for a tight end, so it is what it is.
They gave up a 7th-round pick for him. Maybe.
But why are you even trying to absorb that contract?
Smith is actually a good blocker. So I'm hoping that maybe they use him as a blocker and finally use Pitts for what he's good at.
I'm kind of wondering if they're planning on putting Kyle Pitts out at wide receiver and just having Pitts and London play wide receiver.
I just hope that they have another shitty year so they can fire Arthur Smith because he's a terrible head coach. But the thing about it is, it's not just him. You got the GM there, too, that's making these interesting decisions. I don't know. I think Atlanta is going to blow up this year. I think that they've made some good moves this offseason. I just don't foresee them being contenders. With the Rodgers move, this is my interesting thing. Obviously, with the Rodgers move on the horizon at some point here, possibly, with him moving to the New York Jets, how do you rank that division? Let's say Rodgers signs or gets traded. We get that signed, sealed, and delivered. How do you rank that Buffalo, Miami, New England Jets division?
You mean if they're all healthy?
Let's just say right day one, we're all healthy. How do you rank them?
Buffalo, Miami, probably New England, New York.
Interesting.
I actually, part of me even is going to be rooting against the Jets. They've gone from a lovable group to completely insufferable.
Yeah, Robert Saleh is somebody I really like a lot.
I like him too, but Nathaniel Hackett sucks. And you know what, Aaron Rodgers, I actually ended up rooting against Green Bay a lot last year too because of him.
Yeah, I agree. My thing is that defense has a lot of talent on it. My biggest thing with them, I have it ranked probably Buffalo, New York, Miami, New England today. Now, if you add Hopkins to the fold in New England might move to number 2 for me.
Well, I mean, if Rodgers goes to the Jets, he's the 3rd best quarterback in the division if they're healthy.
But I disagree with that. I think he's
He's no higher than 3rd for me.
I mean, real football-wise, he's the best in the division. I still think that he's got a lot left.
Real football-wise, he's no better than 3rd for me.
I mean, he's a year removed from being the MVP of the league.
He's 39 years old. He clearly had lost something going into last year. Did not look remotely the same. My only question about Tua is whether he's fully healthy. If we're saying he's healthy, he's over him for me. And Allen is definitely over him. Allen's in his prime.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I just think that Aaron Rodgers is he didn't have a terrible year last year. He still threw for 26 touchdowns, 12 picks. Wasn't his best year as an NFL quarterback. I do think that the weapons that he'll have in New York are going to be a lot better than they were in Green Bay. I don't know. I would take an Aaron Rodgers over 28. The quarterback. The headache I wouldn't take any day of the week. That's the thing that I can't stand about Rodgers. And I didn't hate his interview yesterday. I didn't hate it. I did watch it. Obviously.
The scrutiny that he's going to face in New York.
But that's what I'm looking forward to the most. Is the thing about it is like what comes with New York has destroyed egos multiple times. So it'll be definitely interesting. We'll be back obviously next week to talk more about free agency and see some of the more things unfold. You know, it's still early in week 1 of the free agency. I definitely think over the next couple weeks, a lot more things will flesh out as we head up. Like you said, as we head into the draft, a lot more things will kind of fully flesh out. I do think that there's some big moves to be made still with some important pieces that really, can make teams better. But there's certain teams that are holding pat that are consistently getting worse as the day go by. Speaking of which, one of my favorite signings yesterday, I did love the Orlando Brown signing for the Bengals. I thought that was massive. And another thing came out of the report for Cincinnati. Good news, I guess, maybe for Mixon. They're not filing charges against him. I still think that he'll face suspension, possibly anyway. But I thought that Orlando Brown signing was massive.
Yeah, that was good. They've hemorrhaged some of their pieces on defense, though, which is concerning.
Absolutely, 100% agree. It's well, that's the thing though, is it's hard keeping your nucleuses together for as long as you get. Like, you have a short window in the NFL because Burrow's about to get paid, Chase is going to have to get paid, Higgins is going to have to get paid. Like, some of these pieces are going to have to start flying off the radar, and some of these teams. That's why I know everybody's like, well, they need to keep Higgins, they need to keep Higgins. I don't disagree with that sentiment, or Higgins or Boyd. I don't disagree with those sentiments, but at the same time, you have to flush some of that talent out and bring some new pieces in to really kind of keep your nucleus together. Like, your main two is Burrow and Chase, right? You know what I mean? That's your main two. And I'm not saying the rest of those pieces aren't important, but you can't pay everybody. That's just not possible. Yeah. And, you can sell the farm like the Rams did, but God, Lee.
The end comes quick.
But yeah, the Rams have. I love the report real quick before the report that they're selling off Matt Stafford was pretty funny, or trying to sell off Matt.
I don't know how they could.
No, the contract's massive. Yeah. Who takes him? But that said, all right. Before we go, like we do each and every week, let's. Have you watched anything good this week?
Been watching a lot of classic movies. This week, I enjoyed Ted Lasso. My recap is up. Yesterday, we'll be recapping every Wednesday. I'm excited to start recapping season 2 of Schmigadoon in early April. Finished that, and it was a delight.
Yeah, the Big Door Prize comes out the 28th.
Yeah.
28th, pretty excited about that, because I was a big fan of the show, a huge fan of the show. It comes from the creators of Schitt's Creek, another fantastic show, but very, very, very much like the Big Door Prize. Thought that was pretty fun. Swarm starts all 7 episodes drop on Prime Video. Definitely definitely something that's not going to be for everybody. So that'll be interesting to see how people kind of take that one. It's definitely an interesting perspective there. Boston Strangler, you have a review of that up over the site too. That comes out Friday on Hulu. Shazam comes out Friday in theaters. I'm interested to see that. I am interested. Huh?
We're going tonight.
Are you? Yeah, I wanted to go. I think I'm probably going to end up going Saturday. I did see John Wick 4. Definitely not the greatest action movie of all time, even though people have said that. I'm sorry. I just can't with that. I'm trying to see what else I've watched recently. I'm trying to, I've really been on the brain of not watching a whole lot of things because I've just been watching a lot of other stuff. School Spirit started. I kind of like School Spirits. I don't know why. It's not. That's not really surprising. Wolfpack ended, thank God. It was a terrible show.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad Wolfpack's out, but School Spirits, it exists.
It's a lot better than Wolfpack was. That's all I have to say about it.
Oh, look, Ricky got so excited about School Spirits, he got hung up.
What? What happened?
I think you hung up.
Hung up what?
Like, froze.
Oh, I froze. Oh, okay.
It was your excitement about School Spirits.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting couple weeks. Dungeons and Dragons comes out, and then Mario comes out. We're gonna have a lot of movies to talk about over the next couple of weeks, but we'll be back next week.
Over under 2 stars out of 5 for Mario Brothers.
Oh, definitely under.
Yeah,
definitely under.
It's not looking. I mean, I don't like to prejudge things. I mean, I kind of do like to prejudge things, but it doesn't feel good. We should also, if you've been watching Shrinking, and if you're not, seek help. But that should be, I think this week is the actual finale. I know you and I have finished it, so we have trouble keeping track, but wonderful show.
One of, if not my favorite show of television this year. It's truly some beautiful filmmaking. It's a great series, especially now that all 10 episodes are live. You can binge watch it all in one sitting, or they'll be live Friday, or which probably by the time you listen to this. But yeah, I adore that show. I adore it. I love it. I want all of the Emmys to go to that show because it's really a fantastic show that I loved watching. I couldn't stop watching it. I couldn't stop. I got the opportunity to obviously binge it a couple of weeks ago, or like a month and a half ago now. But it's one of my favorite shows on TV. I think they do a lot of things right, and yeah, I love it. So you're right. You're right though. I do lose track quite often about what shows I've watched that I've already. Like I keep on forgetting that the Big Door Prize finally coming out next Wednesday. So
yeah, next one. Actually, 2 Wednesdays.
No, 2 Wednesdays. I can't do math apparently. So
yeah, they have another show that drops this week called Extrapolations that I saw up there, but I just haven't gotten to yet. And then end of the month they have Tetris. I've been waiting for that one to show up.
Me too. I've heard a lot of good things. I think after now that it's premiered at South by Southwest, that I think that it might be coming for us soon. So, be definitely interesting to check out. We'll be talking about all these things, crossing our fingers, crossing our toes, and our nose, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
And your favorite show, The Mandalorian.